So we are all set to begin with our today's webinar. A very warm welcome to all our participants present here today. A very famous quote by Ken Blanchard goes like, feedback is the breakfast of champions. Despite being the number one driver of our personal and professional development, effective and actionable feedback can be incredibly hard to give and take. Emotions get in the way, expectations aren't properly set, and wrong language is used, each of which strip away any motivation we have to get ourselves and our work. HR Association of India welcomes you all to the 2022 Dialogue Masterclass series on the topic Feedback, How Effective It Is. To know more about the HRAI and its events, I would request all our participants to visit the link and details posted in the chat window. Request all the participants to kindly follow the webinar guidelines mentioned in the chat window. It would be great to have all the participants' feedback. We will be running a poll before the Q&A session. Request all participants to kindly give your feedback on the session. I now take the privilege to introduce our esteemed speaker for today, Dr. Raina Khatri Tandon. Dr. Raina Khatri Tandon is an international acclaimed speaker and mentor who has been on various conferences and summits representing India on gender equality, women and child rights, and inclusiveness. She holds double degree in IT and law. She is the founder of Right to Rise and Arkity Foundation, which is catering to training, certifications, compliance, and auditing on various organizations. She is an alumni of E6 Harvard USA in Women Right and Child Psychology under Human Rights. You can also follow her on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. I now hand over the platform to Dr. Raina. Over to you, Dr. Raina.
Good afternoon to everybody. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you, HRAI. Thank you, all the support partners. And thank you very much, Neha and the entire team. Thank you, Pooja, for the warm welcome. It would be so nice if all of you, being a small group, if you can be on camera. So it feels nice that I'm not talking to exactly just the blank screen, but also engaging with you guys. But I leave that completely to you. It would be nice to at least use the chat box wherever, whatever questions come up to your mind. So welcoming all of you, and I guess Pooja has introduced me. I am CEO, founder of Right to Rise, and we are specifically specialist working into POSH, POXO, human rights, stress, and entrepreneurship. And as I say, we are working towards a gender neutral space. We are working towards an unbiased place. We also realize that feedback becomes very important. I think all of us, whether we are entrepreneurs, whether we are leaders, whether we are organizational specialists, whether we are working in a team today, whether we are homemakers, and whether we are HR leaders and organizational leaders at different levels, we know that each of us have somebody who's with us, who's working in a team, who's over us, and we always have one important thing, and that is feedback. Do you agree? Feedback is important. And I think it is important for all of us to have people who will give this feedback, because that allows us to improve on a daily basis. So just like we mentioned when we started, feedback is the breakfast of all champions. That's where your day starts, and that's where your day should end, with understanding, introspecting on what has the critic, the feedback, the reaction given by the person in front of you intentionally as a gift. So one important thing that I will request you today is, after this session, don't take feedback as the biggest problem, but take it as a solution to your life, because it can only be a solution when you take the ownership of taking the feedback in the right format, right? Feedback only once taken that it belongs to you gives the right outcome without being defensive, because without understanding that, why this is so only told to me. And yes, feedback comes in different forms. So like Linux, Linux, the operating system. So that's what makes Linux also different. Because when we say you put things together and you keep taking them again and again and again in multiples, the effort becomes so double, triple, and the positive feedback cycle always happens inside you. So with this positive start, I'm just going to share a video. Please have a look at that video, and I'm sure it's going to change your entire purview. So thank you, Nitya, for actually letting me know that you are around in the room, and I appreciate you giving me the comment. So we are now opening a video. I'm just going to share the screen with you in one moment. Okay, there you go. All over to you. Please listen to this video. It's a short video. It will be over soon.
How does a leader train himself? How does he groom himself for scaling? Vision is fine, but how do I train myself? What do I do? So what did you do to yourself? Nayan Murthy of a startup to a billion-dollar corporation.
First of all, the biggest instrument for improvement for leaders is feedback. Most leaders who failed in the world failed because they cut off the feedback channels. They allowed only positive signals to come to them. Whether it was Mrs. Indira Gandhi, whether it was Richard Nixon, whether it is Robert Mugabe today in Zimbabwe, every one of these people, they cut off the feedback channel. Therefore, you have to create an environment where people give honest feedback. And if you use that feedback, when you sit alone, alone, and reflect on it, I think there is an opportunity for everybody to improve. The second I find is to set aside ego when it is learning. For example, when we started the leadership training program at Infosys, we were the first company to start a leadership institute in India. My colleague Finish handled a course on selling. We all sat down. Even though he was junior to us, we all sat down, we wrote down notes, we learned, and we were the beneficiaries. Similarly, when Mohan Pai did his course on finance, we all sat down and we all learned. We are much better today because of our attending those courses. So once we understand that learning from others, even though they're junior to you, is for your own betterment, I think by and large, you can become better.
So I'm sure all of you have watched this video and you were able to see. Let me just get you a yes or yes. So did you actually get to hear and did you actually see the video? Can we see some thumbs up or some yes on the chat? So I know you could see it. Nitya, Pranav, Monica, Hiral, Ayushi, Bhavna, Pooja, Kabir, Nidhi, Amit, Tushar, Shivani. Yes. Okay, so I have a yes here. So all of you were able to see it. And we already know that as leaders, two things is what? Thank you. Thank you so much, friends. Thank you so much. Two things that is very important is we need to set aside our ego when we are learning. And when we learn, it's not about just learning from the top-down approach, but also the leader's understanding that there could be somebody who's very small, very young, yet giving you a very strong learning. And that also applies when we are listening for feedback. Ego is a different issue. We just probably difficult to place it aside. But yes, we'll see what we can do about it. But it's not age specific, or it's not specific as per hierarchy. Sometimes even the smallest learnings can be given by the most powerful people. So yes, no matter how old, how young, how good, how bad, how naive, how better, and whatever ideas you carry, it's important to give people feedback, because that allows them to close the loop, and it cannot be always what people want to hear. It has to be something where it has been bagged about, keeping it very crisp, keeping it very short, not judging it, being positive or negative, but no generalizing, and being very factual. Speak for only yourself. The most important thing in bold letters you must keep in mind is speak only for yourself. Never speak for somebody else saying that I have heard this from so-and-so person, and that is why I'm actually coming to the understanding that you are so. And always talk about how you feel when somebody else is doing it. It's not about punishing the other person or saying you are this, you are that. It's about how you feel when he's like that. So be sure what you say, the choice of words really, really matter. Now I'm going to be sharing with you the PPT that we are going to go through and some of the most interesting things when we do feedback. Okay, so you'll have to allow me. That's the slide. I am Dr. Reena Khatri Tandon, founder, CEO, Right to Rise, and an organizational change strategist and specialist, along with being somebody in the POSH and POXO as a specialist working towards an unbiased, non-judgmental workspace where every time giving feedback becomes very pertinent. Now, so as we saw the video, we introspected, we retrospected, we come to know what is feedback. And feedback is just not an exchange of words. Feedback is not just telling the person you did this well or that well, but backing it with some realistic conversations, getting to know what the other person feels, understanding from where is he emerging, what is his mindset, and an effective feedback is giving input that can be either positive or negative. It's not a praise. Let me be very clear. It's not always a compliment. It is polished with positive words. It is backed in various strategies, like we say sandwich technique or various methodologies, but it's not always with only a positive compliment. And it could be negative, which saying there could be something which can be corrected, which can work better, how can the approach be, and so on. Or it can be a very neutral stance of saying, hey, this is the general observation that people have been made, and maybe some things can work better, so we can improvise and grow better, strategies can be better, it'll help the entire team, and so on. So, but it's also useful that the receiver is ready to receive it. Don't you agree? It's like if you are offering a sweet from a sweet box, not everybody picks up the sweet to eat. You give it to a diabetic person who does not like too much sweet. So if you give a compliment to a person who doesn't like too sweet words, he will not take it as a feedback. Or if you go to a person who has a big buffet meal, is very busy, and you're going to go and give him feedback, he's not going to listen to you because he already has a lot. So you have to choose the right time, the right place, the right content, not too much, not too less, and give it in the right approach with the right selection of words. I think you will agree with me with all of these, right? Can I see some yeses in the chat box? Of course, I'll not be able to see your chat box, but you can put yes, so I will get the pings. Awesome. So we get some yeses there. Thank you so much for being so participative today. It provides recipients an insight or suggestions about how you need to contribute and what should be desired outcome come. See, every time when you're giving a feedback, you don't want the same outcome, right? For example, if you give a very good feedback, every time you're not expecting that it's a promotion. Every time you're not expecting it's only a compliment and left there. Sometimes you also want people to work better. Sometimes you want people to appraise. Sometimes you want them to go and motivate their teams. Sometimes you also want that it should not backfire. So when you're giving feedback, maybe your approach is constructive. But when you are doing that constructive approach, the choice of words is backfiring. So maybe the person might leave. So you have to keep the outcome in mind all the time. कि अगर मैंने ऐसे बोला, if I do this, what is going to be the end product? Of course, yes, I get irritated, I'm mad, I don't like something. Maybe the constructive feedback is on the negative approach. But if I'm going to use the shout technology or the shout methodology, is it going to yield me the desired outcome that he's going to be working better? If I'm going to work with my team and tell them about all the drawbacks that they carry, are they going to be motivated to grow? So keeping your desired outcome is very important. If you want to give effective feedback, whether it's to your interns, whether it's to probationers, whether it's to people who are newly joined, whether it is even managers giving to their subordinate or peers, you should be always starting with supportive, encouraging, and specific directional goals with giving a reasoning to why you're saying it. I'm not saying positive, I'm saying supportive and encouraging. There's a difference between always being positive. Can I request all of you to be on mute? I'm not sure who's unmuted. Hiral? Okay, thank you so much. I'm requesting the admins to take care, HRAI hosts and admins, so we don't have any disturbance for the other people, right? Thank you so much. So here we have, if you want to give effective feedback, you have to think about the direction, the need for change, the outcome, and the continuous actions that you want them to perform. So everything is very performance oriented. Everything is very productive oriented. Everything is very focused. Cannot just be a line that you're giving. And that requires two important things: listening and awareness. If you don't listen, and if you're not aware, you cannot plan or channelize the next flow of actions, right? Your outcome is very haywire. It's not direction with a focus. Why is this feedback important? Why are we doing this session? Because no matter in what level of life we are at, professional or personal, no matter what level we are at our leadership, even if we are an individual entrepreneur starting up today, we will be having people to be around: vendors, clients, interns, probationers, team people, working with clients, working with organizational leaders, working with big HNI clients. You will always have people coming back and telling you, hey, this is not really good, maybe you should try this. Whether it's with work, whether it's with your personal brand, whether it's with your excellence, whether it's your HR team, whether it is with growing bigger and productive and higher in the channel of leadership. So what will feedback do? Feedback will help you to save a lot of time what the other people have taken to reach at the same level. So in the long run, it's saving your time, it's benefiting you, it's improving your culture, it's the way you approach people, the way you take up targets, the way you are delivering your projects, creating a better product, creating a better output, setting the expectations, what people want from you, allowing you to understand, hey, we want you to do much better in terms of helping us. So you get more orders, you have more people connecting with you, fuels professional growth. So your teams are built much more stronger, and you're able to pull out the USP of every person that works with you, rather than finding out the faults where they are maybe not good at. Leads to clearer communication, and in turn, it also gives you the why of what you're doing next. Okay, so communication is the key all the time for an improved feedback. Now, giving and receiving feedback. So feedback is not just a one-way system. We gain feedback, we give feedback. So we are giving, we are receiving, and we also get to hear it as a neutral communication. So yes, every time you get it, at least you must be in gratitude and acknowledge it. Every time, feedback, being positive or negative, doesn't have to be negating, doesn't have to be hostile, doesn't have to be an angry, doesn't have to be in a defensive mode. And if you look at the different types of feedback, what comes to your mind? I'm going to take 1 minute to ask you, what are the different types of feedback that you can think of? You can put it on the chat, or you can unmute and also tell me. Do you know of any types of feedback that come to your mind, or anything that you have come across? Okay. Constructive feedback. Thank you. Positive feedback, negative feedback. Okay. Some are writing in PM, some are writing on the chat. Anything else? Qualitative and quantitative. Thank you, Dr. VLN. Thank you, Nitya. Thank you, Shamil. Thank you, Sahil. Thank you. Anything else that we come across? Okay, so great. A lot of you actually know of some types of feedback. But let me tell you, these are very, what we say is conceptualized. If I have to tell you what are the two types of feedback or two methods of feedback, very, very clear thing. When you give a feedback, there's only two things. Either something positive happens or something negative happens. And what is that positive? Taking action. Yeah, it sounds funny, but yes, if you give feedback, either the person is going to do something that you ask him to do, or he's not going to do it. And that is nothing but you keep talking blah, 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 and there's no action. Right? But that is the truth. Must be very funny to you, but that is what is the truth. Either he's taking it in and it's going in, seeping him. It's the kind of understanding that he understands. Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it something that I need to work at? Is it something that I should apply or not apply to get a particular growth? Or he's not at all taking it in, because the way in which you've done it is not what he is in the receiving mode. So what could be the outcomes to a feedback that you're expecting? A result. Maybe you're advising. Maybe you're giving an opinion. Maybe you're giving a feedback. Maybe you want an idea to be conceptualized. Maybe you want a growth to happen. Maybe you want him to do things better. Maybe you want a survey. Maybe your blog is not right. You're making him to get a more structured approach. Maybe you want him to take a responsibility or give him a rating, feedback, grading of whatever work he's done. Or in bold words, no action. Right? Sometimes you don't have any action happening. And why? Because everything that you've done has not followed a particular concept of strategy to give the feedback. You have not packaged it well. And packaging is everything that matters. Correct? Yes or yes? Does packaging matter in branding? Does packaging matter in marketing? Does packaging matter in whatever we do? Does packaging matter in whatever we are as an organization? The words that we put, the branding that we do, the kind of people that come up to, who trust us, only depend on how we are packaging ourselves. So the packaging of feedback also has to be done well, friends. What to do when we don't know what to do? Strange, right? What to do when you don't know where to go? What to do when you don't know how to do? And that's where you have to identify how to give feedback. First step, identify the problem. What is the problem? Invest your time to first understand what is the problem occurring and where. Is it an isolated event? Is it a group event? Does it affect more areas? Does it have more people? Does it have a repetitive style? Is he doing the same thing in different activities? Is he or she influencing other people? Does this need to be individually taken, or it has to be with a group of people? How does this affect the entire team, the rest of the work, the rest of the purpose toward which we are aligned over the team? Select a time and place. You can't give feedback everywhere. Okay, when you're sitting in the canteen, you can't give him a feedback if it is not something that you want to casually do. Sometimes it is a very serious feedback that you want to give to to your team member. Maybe even feedbacks given to your partners, feedbacks given to your own people, feedback given to the entire team, organizational heads. So it depends the timing and the mode in which you select to give the feedback. Not maybe in the canteen, maybe in the cabin, maybe not alone, maybe in the group, maybe doing it little subtly and not very seriously, maybe laughing it away, maybe doing with humor. Feedback should be given in every different way when you are dealing with different situations. Yes, we do say it's a private thing and sometimes should be done without disruptions, with one-to-ones, but not all things work one-to-one. You should first explain and write down what are the reasons and why you are doing it, what will be the benefit and the best interest for that person. So that will decide the time and the place where to give. Okay. Next, what is the next thing? Setting the stage. When you have a play, you make everything ready, right? when you have to do an enaction of a feedback, you have to set the stage. You just can't go barge in and say, so sorry, just give me 1 second. I'm going to mute this for a minute. And okay. So when you're setting the stage, when you are actually kind of enacting a play, you need to set the props, you need to set the stage, you need to set the people. There's a lot of clarity in working on the script. All the characters have to be set. You do a lot of back end work, right? So when you're giving a feedback, why do you think that instantly you go and give a feedback and the person should put it in action? So explain that feedback focuses on a specific behavior and not on a person. You will have to do the backing up, setting up the stage of telling the person, hey, this is what I would like to discuss something about, maybe a project, but it would be nice if we could sit single-handedly, discuss it out, and something's on how it can be worked better, rather than attacking, insulting, and negating him for every critic thing what he does, because that's not going to help anyway. We very well know if we do that, things are not going to work. So ask him to keep some time aside, ask him to come, maybe, hey, he might just ask, hey, what's the agenda? So you might just say, okay, come in for an open mind. I'm just trying to brainstorm some things, things are working, some are not working, and I just want to get some views. And then while you're discussing, probably come up with things which are working, not working, difficult. If he's not in the listenable mode, maybe he's finding it difficult to have the concentration, it's fine. But trying to understand the person, why is he in that mode, is also equally important, because at the end of the day, he is your team. That is your organization that you want to grow at, right? Describe the behavior. Okay, so when we are telling about a particular situation, we don't actually say, in this particular situation, you did this, and because you did this, this is going to happen. You will focus on the observations and say, it was noted that this happened, and it was brought to my notice that somebody said that this is what we did, or I actually saw and observed that something like this happened. So feedback is not just judging the person, completely cornering him. The description of the entire events have to be very specific to the behavior. Okay, make your case, your observations, one by one, telling that the first step was this, second step was this, and many times this came up. Give some interpretations, conclusions, realistic approaches, so that you get the entire explanation for him really clear in the positive and in the approach that is okay to take him. Place yourself there and see how it is going to be if somebody is going to come up and tell these things, and make it very, very understandable, influencing. A leader is one who has this influencing traits. Believe me, friends, this is something that's going to take you really far. If you have the influencing skills, you can even give a negative feedback in the most positive and most amazing way. Hold your ground. By this point, you're actually going to say that this is what I follow, this is what is the culture, this is what the ethics. He or she will react to your speech, but you need to make a point that this is what is expected. In spite of certain ups and downs, there could be arguments, there could be blah, blah, blah. Keeping yourself calm and saying, this is what is the culture of the organization and what is expected. It's not about me, it's not about you, it's not about anybody personally. But if multiple times this happens, then this is what is the action flow as per maybe the code of conduct, maybe the HR policies, maybe the structure of the organization, maybe what we follow as an entire ethics to the organizations, and number them. But still stick to the point that this is why we have come up to this discussion. Explore the whole situation, come across the entire scene, narrate the list of events, find the explanations, give the interpretations. I'm sure the behavior will be explained in detail, and outline the positive consequences. If you do this better, what could happen? If we are not doing this, whatever happened now will not happen again. So let him get the overview of how things can be better, why things are not happening now, because maybe if we do it this way, it will react and come to a better outcome. Outline the negative consequences if the positive reactions are not coming to his understanding. Explain all the negative things which will cause them to go down in terms of skills, competency, growth, numbers, projections, team not going ahead, leadership not having coming to place, the consequence of his behavior, which the culture and the entire organization has to suffer. Don't be in a threatening mode. Don't scream and yell. Don't shout. Be calm and just place your point of what is right by giving the entire outlook. And finally, plan for a change. The final step should decide a clear commitment of what change is expected. And this change will give you a better improvement, a better goal, a better result, and set deadlines. Because after you have discussed the whole thing, if you're just going to end it without any loop, if you're just going to end it by saying, okay, fine, this is what I wanted to discuss, and the end of the story, it will sound like you're just coming to hack, attack, break him down. We need to clearly tell them, okay, this is all we discussed, point 1, point 2, point 3, and then tell them this was the flow of the discussion. Finally, this is what we plan to do now is next. Set deadlines, plan that maybe in this time period, you will try and see, observe, attend to whatever is happening in terms of the events coming up and how you will be able to improvise. So help him, support him, provide him that support so that his objective and your objective at and large is being working together in alignment. And he's able to become a better person, or she's able to become a better person to get over that problem. Okay. So did you learn something? Are you getting some things before we proceed, before we go ahead? Are you getting to what I'm sharing? Are you with me? Yes. So I can see Nitya, I can see Yash. Thank you so much. So you are actually absorbing something, right? Before we can share one more video, which we will share in another 5 minutes, I'm going to go back to the screen again and continue. So as we are continuing with setting up these steps, which are clear steps that you need to follow as you're giving feedback, we also know that there are different kinds of feedback. Okay, there's formal feedback, informal feedback, sandwich technique where you say a positive thing about a person, you take him through the entire scenario, how he's been working throughout the company, throughout the team in a very nice way, and then finally coming to what is the issue, what is the problem, and how he can be better, which will allow him to get a better result, a better growth pattern in the company. And then finally telling about something positive again. It's positive, negative, positive, and that's called a sandwich technique. Formal feedback is formally actually telling him, casually actually telling him in a laughing mode, in a smiling mode, in a very casual approach way. When you're having maybe town hall events, maybe gatherings, maybe a cup of coffee, maybe in the canteen, maybe while you're coming in or going out of the organization in the morning or evening, in a very formal way. Informal ways, bringing up, discussing, coming to positive feedback is giving all the positives in him and then telling him that there is something that still needs to be worked on. Constructive feedback, we're going to see a little bit. Forward feedback and encouragement feedback, and many other strategies which we can take as tools today. Okay. What are the additional tips? Distinguish between motive and behavior. Sometimes there are people who will not be doing things where you're going to give feedback only based on the behavior, but also on the motive that they have if they're doing something positive or negative with regards to the culture of the organization. So you have to distinguish that, and that can happen if there are multiple people who are actually observing what's different in the way and approach of work being done. Also with the kind of body language that we carry over everything. Very aptly said by one of the senior leaders and motivational speakers is, it's not how you do things, it's not what and how much you do, it's how you do in everything that you approach, right? So the way you are finishing your task, the way you are approaching people, the way you communicate actually matters in all aspects, and that defines also your motive and behavior towards people. Giving corrective feedback is very important. Try to avoid having to give corrective feedback in the first place. Be clear about and specific about what you're asking, how you're asking, and give enough information so that they have enough facts to say, hey, yes, this is all about work. It's not getting personal. It's not getting into professional ethics. It's not getting into somebody's space, because everybody's space is very, very, very important to them. At workplace, we are only focused on giving the feedback with regards to facts that we expect people to deliver. So it has to be very concise, very clear, specific, one-to-one, maybe regarding the work or the project that they're delivering, what are the other deliverables, very, very crisp and clear. Having the person to repeat what you have said is very important again. A lot of us just say, hey, you're supposed to do this, 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 this. Have you understood? And we say, yes, 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 yes. But nobody goes back and says, what did you understand? If you actually go back and ask half of the people, what did you understand? They'll say, oh, I think I didn't understand. Or maybe I forgot what my manager said. Oh, I forgot what my boss said. Oh my God, let me just do what I remember. And we end up doing things wrong, right? We end up doing things wrong. There are huge losses. There's a lot of repetition. Sometimes there is also loss of power, a lot of, maybe there could be in the long run, a lot of risk towards lives. So let's get the feedback right and have the person to repeat what you have been saying to he or she. Provide a template, give an example what to do and how to do. Suppose the task has not been done well, give them an Excel sheet, give them a Word document, give them a particular strategy of how to do it. This is a template, please follow it. Be clear about what is expected. Maybe if they are the worksheets, if they are documented sheets, if they are your panel sheets, be clear about the task that is expected, including being on the plant or being on the setup. What needs to be discreetly done has to be specifically given in instructions. So giving corrective feedback, have the person give a plan, actionable, what needs to be said, what is on the onset, and remember that just because there is done differently doesn't mean it is wrong. Some people have a very beautiful way of doing things, which could be different to the technique that you follow. But that doesn't mean it's wrong. That's just that you have to first listen to understand how they are delivering things. So it is a clear listening of first understanding what is the person's way of approach, how is he doing the things, and that can be absolutely right. But as a leader, we always feel that what we have taught has to be followed. And today's 22nd century, we have the youngsters who are coming up with much more proactive actions, much more better ways, better approaches, great learning strategies, newer ways, newer technology, and we should be equipping ourselves to the faster world. So the best thing is to first listen, friends. Feedback only requires a lot of listening, and that itself is greatness towards the next stage of taking your company to the extreme level. Before you give corrective feedback, ask yourself first, what specifically needs to be changed? What's not working that needs to be engaged? What has to be approached? What are the negative consequences of doing it or not doing it? Is the numbers going to be affected? How many numbers are going to be affected? What is the number of people that is exiting? How are the deliverables getting affected? If there is another way to turn it around and get the work done, then you should be focused on that. Sometimes the best way to convince somebody is to allow them to do that. So there are sometimes team people, and you'll be thinking, why is the boss actually saying that we should be doing things like this, right? Right, Zeno? Right, Chintan? Right, Nikhilesh? Right, Nikhil, Nitya, Dr. VLN? Sometimes you must allow the new people, the old people, they have their own ways of delivering things, right? We don't have to be always so transactional. We don't have to be always so stringent. So the process has to be like this only. The water factory has to go like this. The chemicals have to go like this. Yes, there are equipment, but sometimes our approach towards having the view and taking the numbers and getting the product delivered can be different. So sometimes allow the person to do what he's doing and say, you have this much time. If you can deliver the same outcome in your way, in your approach, then great. So let him do it. The best way to convince is to let him do it. If he's faltering, if he's wrong, then he will follow you. Some of us learn maybe by making those mistakes. And if things are better and it works, then we also learn that there could be better approaches and newer approaches. So in some cases, an experience is what is needed, right? I'm sure you'll agree on that. So common strategies, remember there could be different approaches. People either fight or flight. So avoidance is a strategy, but not the right strategy. Okay. It is a strategy that people and most people choose. Avoidance and moving away from the people, that's not the right strategy. And most people opt only for that. But there are other strategies where we can physically, emotionally sit down, maybe with empathy, with apathy, with hearing people out, with listening to them, with understanding their approaches, with open mindset, maybe with humor, sometimes jokingly. Things just settle down. Things just fall in place. So it is important that if you want your life to change, your choices must change. If you want your life to change, your choices must change. Follow up with a recap. He or she should go back, tell you what were the biggest takeaways, how did we discuss, what were the mistakes, what could we have done better. This is what I discussed with you today while providing feedback. This is what was not working. This is what we should be doing. An approach, a strategy, a plan, and then thanking him for being there, hearing him out, taking your feedback, listening to him. Have a nice day. Great work. Appreciate them, acknowledge them. Make it crisp and short. Don't go around and round and round, beating around the bush, complaining, negating, talking about the negative consequences, and an email finally to summarize the whole thing, or a message that goes to them in writing. Because feedback can be written, verbal, or in any other format, but a written format just summarizes the whole thing, whatever you talk. Because we have very small span times in our brain, so a recap always helps. Encourage continuous feedback. Feedback is not one time. The next time, again, if things are better, you have to ongoing have that collaboration. You have to bring in your people again. Put yourself in that place. Work as if you were there in the place, and you will be expecting that somebody will come in, put a pat on my back and say, hey, you did it better. Give huge insights to the team that when I was in your situation, 3 years back, we did this. We did not get this right. We got this right. Ask individual people to come back to you, ask questions, seek their time and understand, oh, did you understand this? Did you not understand this? How can I help you there? Are you able to understand the project deliverables? What are things that are there so much on your plate that you're not able to do, so that they don't feel overloaded and they benefit from your internal training, your internal support, questions asked, and more. By following these steps on a daily basis, I'm sure they will always reach you out. They will always look up to your feedback, and feedback will not become a burden or a criminal offense that we look at when HR or any other team people give, or organizational leaders, but it will become a support for them. Let me tell you, even Facebook, Apple, and those CEOs have great feedback systems, okay? That is why they are big organizations today. All these people have great feedback loops, great feedback teams in their day-to-day process, and that's why they are welcoming even fresh ideas over the table that a CEO can put into action. And some of the effective feedback strategies that people are using across companies, across organizations are some of them. There are many more, but these are some of them. Do try and consider McKinsey feedback model, SMART feedback model, the COIN method, and many more. Okay, you can Google them out. They are very much available. Our Google is such a open field where you get all the answers. But at this best, feedback is the most powerful tool that can bond people together, create massive growth, and importantly, give you an introspect into your life for improvement. Self-improvement is the best improvement. At worst, if it is badly done, the person will go to any extent of crying in the bathroom, to leaving organizations, and to any other level, right? Which is not very good, but a very bad way of supporting a person who feels that he can grow, but no support. And as I say thank you to you, my friends, I end my say by saying, be solution oriented, choose words wisely, listen and accept people carefully. If yes or no, when they say, is it actually the yes or no is important. Did they really understand? Did they really accept your feedback? Did they really get to understand what you are trying to tell them to support them? And it is not actually just for them to become a bad person or not grow, It is not to corner them. It is not to hack them down, and it is for their benefit is what you have to put it. So the choice of words have to be concise, crisp, and being very empathetic and talking so that they feel the situation what you're telling. So be concise, understand the non-verbal communication clues, design their future actions so that they find support in the plans ahead. Acknowledge them, say thank you, be available for them completely, listen to them, hear them out, find the untold words also that they are trying to put forward to you, and avoid any generalizations. I did this for this person, so maybe because of this, even you should be doing this. No. All of our lives have different situations, different lifestyles, different people, different. So we have to act tactfully because that is what humans are known for, right? We act tactfully, and no other living being, not even the animals, no other living being on earth actually can use the best tactful strategies for any of our growth. Okay. And yes, this is one template that I'm giving away you as a gift. Feedback is not attacking a person. Feedback is not criticizing a person. Instead, feedback is a positive praise, constructive criticism that suggests a solution, a support, an opportunity for growth, and commentary about the work, telling them how they can become better in self-development and in product or project development over an organization. So guidelines for giving feedback, please follow this template. When you do this, whatever the behavior the person has done, I feel this. I feel bad. I feel that you're just not doing justice to yourself. I feel that you're not getting the best. I feel that you are doing something wrong. And I don't really personally like it because this will end you up in the wrong situation. It will end you up in leaving the organization. It will end you up in a wrong take where the CEO can think you're doing maybe going against the ethics of the organization, and cause that emotion to come forward in the form of a realistic data, not just by what you feel. Okay, it's not important that you talk about your feelings. It's important about backing up with data. So that's something from my side. That's Dr. Rena Khatri Tandon. You can Google me out on LinkedIn, social media, anywhere with Rena Khatri Tandon, founder, CEO, Right to Rise. Thank you very much. And I hope that if you have any questions, you can now ask me. And we are at 3:50. So thank you so much for being a lovely participative audience. And I hope that I have done justice to provide you value and you take away some great learnings for today. Thank you so much.
Okay, very interesting. Before we move into the Q&A session, we will be initiating the poll. Request all participants to kindly share your feedback. While you're all doing so, request all participants to kindly post the questions in the chat window. So we have one question from Nitya. How should I practice assertiveness to give better feedback?
Okay, interesting question. See, when we are giving, that all depends on who you are giving also a feedback. For example, you are giving your own customer, your vendor or your client. Okay, you can't be assertive to them because being straight or being assertive is two different things. When you are assertive, you're not loud, you're not irritated, you're not angry, and I'm saying that in bold because people think assertiveness means being very rude. When you are assertive and trying to make a point, for example, the cost is high and you're trying to make a point, it could be done in different ways. It could be something where you're humorously saying, it could be saying that, what makes you say that something should be lesser? Have you ever seen something like this in the market? Or trying and reasoning out. So assertiveness is directly proportional to reasoning out with the kind of questions that you ask. When you are assertive, you are making a point that there is some opportunity where we could improve. There is an opportunity that we are able to understand from where the questions are coming in. Yet we have a particular set product, a set price, a set answer to whatever they are seeking. So I always say assertiveness has to be something which is told very clearly, crisply, backing it with all the data, the relevance, the references from where it's coming, and why are you so convicted when you're saying maybe it is about trust, or maybe it's about a product, or is it about price, or if it's about commitment, or is it about delivery, or is it about numbers? So you should be having all your information ready. There should be all your research done, and that's where assertiveness comes from. If you're not prepared, you cannot be assertive. You will always have doubts about your own stuff and also explaining to the other person who's on the opposite side of you. It could be various things. That is why I generalized it. How do you respond to constructive feedback? Nice question, Nidhi. So again, it depends from where is the constructive feedback coming from. Okay, not every time we respond in the same way, right? When constructive feedback is given, not all constructive feedback has to be taken. I always say feedback has to be taken only when the person who is giving you the feedback is quite credible enough to give you that feedback, right? Not in terms of age, not in terms of cadre, not in terms of what level they stand. Sometimes a person who is very young also gives you, for example, I'm sure if you are married and if you have kids, sometimes we have even kids coming and giving us feedback, correct? I would have my boy who's 15 years old coming up to and telling me, Mama, maybe when you were doing the session, there was a repetition of some word. So you should avoid, right? I'm just giving an example. Now, if I have to take that constructive feedback in a negative and say, hey, you don't know anything, right? You've never done training. You've never done a professional training. You've never approached people. You don't know what is anxiety. You don't know what is being overwhelmed. You don't know what it is like being in front of 100 people, right? So don't come and explain to me. And I'm going to negate that feedback, right? In that negation, what did I do? I just pushed away something that is going to help me become a better person, correct? The intent of that person, my child coming and telling me that, was because he wants Mama to be better, right? Same way, when somebody is coming and giving you a feedback, first you have to weigh, is that feedback really relevant to you? Is it something that is going to help you become better? And why is it come to you? Why does that person feel that he has to come and give you feedback? That means, number one, you have kept yourself open. You have kept yourself in listenable mode. You have kept yourself approachable. So that's a very good thing. When person comes and gives you feedback, first feel happy that at least you kept yourself open. Somebody can walk up to you and feel comfortable talking to you. आप कितने लोग के पास जाते हैं आज उठ के feedback देने के लिए? Maybe one or two, because you feel hesitant if I go and give the constructive feedback, the person may feel bad, may not like it. करूंगी तो उसको अच्छा नहीं लगेगा. Maybe मेरे माँ बाप भी उसको बुरी तरीके से ले लेंगे. उनको hurt हो जाएगा. We think like that about our parents, our people, our workers, our team, our leaders, and everybody else, right? So when we think about our people like that, when somebody is coming up to you, is it not a beautiful feeling? So never feel bad that somebody has come and given you a feedback. Second, is the feedback going to help me grow? If you feel no, it is irrelevant, then probably don't take it. It's like you have a buffet in front of you and people are serving you. Did anybody force you to eat everything? Right? I might have 20 people in the room. If all 20 come and give me a feedback, whether to take that 20 people's feedback is absolutely my call. Right? We don't take everything and eat, no? We don't take the whole buffet and dump it in our stomach, then we will be unwell. Same way, if you take any feedback and every feedback inside you, you will get unwell. Because that is not going to help your body in a better way. It is going to affect you, it is going to stress you out, it's going to create anxiety, it's going to create anger, and all that is going to burn you out. So constructive feedback has to be taught in 3 ways. Who's giving you, what is the credibility and the background behind it, and how is it going to help you self-develop yourself. So how do I respond? Well, everybody responds in very different ways. It depends on who's telling you that. Sometimes we get angry, we are also human. Sometimes we may happily take it, sometimes we laugh it away, sometimes we are joking, sometimes we don't have to answer anything. Right? A smile says it all. You don't have to say anything. I hope I've answered your question, Nidhi.
And we have another question from Kabir. How often should leaders provide feedback? What if the team member becomes defensive?
Okay. I am just trying to read that question again. How often should leaders provide feedback? In my presentation, I've said it should happen often. How often? Again, I leave it to you. It also depends. Every culture of an organization is very different. I think you should have it at least once in a month or once in 3 months, whenever you have review meetings. Whenever people come up to you and say, hey, last time I did not do this well, maybe this time I want you to review. But they generally, we give feedback only during reviews or during, appraisals and things like that. I don't know how often it happens in other companies, but with entrepreneurs, of course, they will be providing feedback on a very ongoing basis to their teams. How big is your organization? Again, depends whether there are levels and hierarchies where your feedbacks are coming from. So feedback from a lower level, then a mid-level, then a manager, and then the superficial on the higher level. It also depends on feedbacks coming from different hierarchy people at different times. So there is no one set rule, Kabir. And what if he gets defensive? That's the person's problem. If you provide it in the right way, in the right choice of words, and being calm, I'm sure he won't get defensive. But if you are shouting and screaming and yelling at him, he will get defensive. It's simple. See, we reciprocate only emotions in the same way where we see it. Okay, it's always, we say an action is an equal and opposite reaction. And even if the person is getting defensive, I'm sure if you are calm and composed and say, I understand your reactions, but I will still request you to have a glass of water and sit down. Allow him to take in whatever you have said. Allow him to eat it, drink it, let it in. It will take some time because not all feedbacks are okay with everybody. If you're going to tell him, hey, I'm going to remove you from the organization, that's not a very positive feedback. So he will not like it for sure. He will get defensive if he really needs the job, right? But you will have to allow him to take it in, seep it in, and you will have to help him out that, it's not completely your take, it's not completely your decision. And there are reasons why we've come to this. And what else can we do to work and help you get another job or, get something else out. But supporting the person at that point becomes very important. And making him understand that you are not the only decision maker at that point, and it has been coming through different people. That is why they've come to this end product is also important. So if he's defensive, you don't get defensive. And if you get defensive, then maybe give it some time and go back to it again. Because not all the time do we react in the same way, right? So it's okay. I will never say you have to be perfect, because we are all imperfect, and it's okay to be imperfect. We are always work in progress.
Nicely explained, Dr. Rana. Once again, I thank all our participants for joining our session today. We have received a lot of inquiry about the e-certificate offered by HRAI. You can claim your certificate by sharing your details, name and session attended in an email to the email ID provided in the chat window. Please ensure you do this by end of this month. We will email the e-certificates to you based on the details received. Thank you, Dr. Raina, for an insightful and intriguing session. It's been a pleasure being with you today. I'm sure our participants had a lot to learn and take away from this session. Before we conclude with today's session, we would also want to thank the association members, GESIA, NASCOM, COE, LinkedIn Local, Telgro, TLE, and WICCI for supporting these HRA events. To know more about these associations, request you to kindly visit the links provided in the chat window. Thank you once again, dear speaker and our participants, for joining us today. Do join us in tomorrow's masterclass session on OKR Measure What Matters by Ms. Saloni Kaul at 3 p.m. That's it from our today's webinar. See you soon. Stay safe, take care, and bye for now.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Raina.